It's the John Phillips Show. Johnny's back tomorrow. It's Randy Wang here, and the phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to get right into what's going on right now at LA City Council. As we speak, the LA City Council is debating a change to the City of Los Angeles's rent stabilization ordinance, LA's version of rent control. You have heard, if you've listened to these meetings over the past year, so many people in public comment with the phrase, you need to cap the rent at 3%. And through the Housing and Homelessness Committee, they have done studies that shown that this can be done and the landlords won't be too burdened. Meanwhile, the landlords, who already so many got chased out during all the COVID lockdowns and the canceling of the rent and the freezings of the rent, that so many have sold their buildings to the bigger companies, the big developers that are buying up rent-stabilized units all across the city of Los Angeles. So the debate is happening right now. I'm going to play you some of the sound that we have so far, including Hugo getting booed. But let's hear what they have to say. And if you're a landlord in Los Angeles and you want to talk to us about how this is affecting you, how this potential vote could change your business or potentially put you out of business, you can give us a call. If you want to tell us how difficult it is to be a landlord in California, because I'm sure there are plenty of Bay Area cities doing the same nonsense. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you want to comment on the LA City Council's vote today, it's happening right now. They haven't voted yet. When they do, I'll bring that to you on this change to the rent stabilization ordinance, capping rent increases at 3% regardless of inflation and regardless of other costs. Like, I don't know, if you're a landlord and you have State Farm gets an approval to jack up your property rental insurance 40%. Let's hear what Nithya Raman had to say.
Thank you so much.
DSA member.
Thank you so much, Council President. Colleagues, I know that we're going to have a rich discussion today, but
Oh, stop it. Already I'm irritated. These people love to say the word thoughtful.
But the conversation that we're going to have today was teed up 2 years ago when we passed a broad expansion of tenant protections in 2023.
After, the 2.5 year eviction moratorium that they said they needed to do. Otherwise, so many people were going to become homeless during COVID, and then no one was allowed to be evicted, and then the homeless numbers exploded anyway.
While those changes took place while we were removing pandemic protections, the underlying system of tenant protections and our rent increase formula that we were dealing with then came from an earlier era in Los Angeles and hadn't been updated in over 4 decades. We have had a system that has allowed rent to rise above inflation year after year. In fact, for more than 20 of the past 40 years that we've had this ordinance in place.
And I'll say, I don't know what the answer is here. I do know that rents exploded over the last 15 years. And I don't know how people afford what used to be entry-level homes, entry-level apartments. It wasn't that long ago when I moved out of my parents' house in 2007 and was able to rent a studio apartment in Valley Village for $800 a month, which was a lot for me at the time, but I could make it work on my entry-level radio job salary. I don't even want to know what a studio apartment is renting for in Valley Village right now, but I'm sure I can look it up.
And because we've had vacancy decontrol and half of units turn over every 4 to 5 years, rents in our rent-stabilized housing stock have risen a lot, part and parcel of the skyrocketing cost of rents across the entire city. Only greater supply will sustainably reduce costs for all renters in LA, but I also believe that our rent stabilization formula is overdue for a change. And while I believe there is widespread agreement on this body that a change is needed at this time, I also know that there are real differences around this horseshoe in how we make those changes today. Those were apparent even in committee. But I encourage us all.
Oh, this is so funny. I'm looking on a rental website. I'm actually looking at the corner where I used to live. And I don't think there are any rentals available in the building where I lived in. But the building next door, you're looking at $2,600 a month. Oh, my goodness.
But I encourage us all, colleagues, today to work towards finding agreement and to passing an update. I also want to say that whatever happens today, between the new tenant protections that we passed in 2023 and the additional support for renters from Measure ULA and Measure A funds.
Oh, here we go. Across the street, and I used to live on near like Riverside and Radford, near that Gelson's in Valley Village. The apartment building across the street from where I used to pay $800 a month from 2007 until 2014, I think it got up to about $900 by the time I got out of there. There is a studio, a 510 square foot studio, renting for $1,890 a month. But then again, the costs for everything have been going up. And the argument that Hugo Soto Martinez and the DSA members have been is that the mom and pop landlords have been getting rich off of using inflation as an excuse to jack up the rent, jack up the rent, jack up the rent.
We have collectively managed to change City Hall's orientation over the past 5 years towards a system that is working much harder than it was before to protect vulnerable tenants and to keep people from getting priced out of the city. I am proud of that work. Our people are our city. But now it's time to focus on making sure our existing systems work, that our city works. Our office spends an extraordinary amount of time.
By the way, it's the same crew that every time there's any kind of an emergency, they're the ones that say that we need another eviction moratorium. When the fires happen, eviction moratorium. The ICE raids, eviction moratorium. It's got to be really scary to want to be a landlord in the city or the county of Los Angeles, knowing that the local government can eventually destroy your business with a single vote.
Our office spends an extraordinary amount of time on case management for tenants, for landlords, for developers, building everything from market rate housing to homeless housing, and across the board. Whoever we're doing that case management for, what we hear is that city bureaucracy is not working for them. Whether it's LAHD or DWP or the Department of Building and Safety or the city attorney, we have to follow through on our promises to everybody. Whether it is the tenant facing harassment or the landlord who wants to make repairs or the builder trying to get their permits.
Yeah, you want to know why there's so many slums in Los Angeles? Because you can only charge a teeny tiny amount for rent in certain buildings, like these buildings in downtown LA where apparently the rent is like $1,200. And the people complain that, yes, I'm paying almost nothing, but the building is full of rats.
To fix that is governance. That takes work that happens mostly outside of these chambers. That is not going to generate headlines, but to me, that does have to be the relentless focus of our work going forward. So thank you, colleagues, and I look forward to our discussion today.
So that was Nithya Raman's intro to this. Again, this meeting's happening right now, and I'll try to follow along live as much as I can during the breaks and record as much of the sound as I can, but I can't play it for you live off of YouTube because sometimes the public likes to curse in these meetings. Then Bob Blumenfeld of the West Valley spoke, and he said that he wanted to propose a different plan with something called rent banking. Then it went to John Lee, the lone Republican on the LA City Council. Let's hear what he had to say.
I'd just like to start with the simple fact that, Los Angeles and this council has spent years building a pro-housing strategy. We've expanded incentives citywide. We adopted a housing element and citywide housing incentive programs that have focused on growth in high opportunity areas, prioritized and fast-tracked 100% affordable projects under ED1.
By the way, anytime you hear the term affordable, that means subsidized. If you want to know what are the reasons why rents have gone up considerably for everybody over the last 15 years, it's this concept of affordable housing, where your price is being artificially inflated to subsidize the person that says they can't afford it.
We've cut red tape, we've accelerated approvals, and delivered real incentives for builders to produce affordable units. These are major policy wins, and they're starting to work. We finally have construction in neighborhoods where...
By the way, another thing that happened in the city of Los Angeles in 2022, the voters passed something called Measure ULA, which was called the mansion tax, where any property that's worth over $5 million was subject to, I think, a 5% all the way up to 10% tax. You know, just even more money that the city's collecting. What either was anticipated or wasn't anticipated was that all multifamily homes are worth at least $5 million. And what has happened is there's not a lot of people that want to build apartment buildings in Los Angeles unless they're mega towers with $4,000 a month studio apartments. In Sherman Oaks, there is an apartment building that was recently built next to the Fashion Square Mall. They built it on top of a new Trader Joe's. And as affordable as Trader Joe's is, you're going to only be able to eat there because the rent for a studio apartment in that building is $3,000.
We finally have construction in neighborhoods where nothing has moved for years. And now, just as we are gaining momentum, we are considering a change to the RSO formula. This sends the opposite message. This sends the message, do not build here. Do not invest in Los Angeles. Do not keep your units on the market. We've seen what happens in cities that have taken this similar approach. In places like San Francisco, Berlin, Stockholm, strict rent control measures led to fewer available homes as property owners sold, converted, or withdrew their units from the market.
And what we've seen a lot lately is the owners of some of these rent-stabilized units, these rent-stabilized buildings, these small two-story things in Boyle Heights and downtown L.A., because of things like the eviction moratoriums, they said, screw it, we're selling. They sell to a private equity firm like BlackRock or Blackstone. I can never remember which one. And they use something called I think it's the Ellis Act to evict everyone because they're going to demolish the building and install a pricey tower.
The result was the same each time: fewer rentals and longer wait lists. 47C, that is proposed before us, is proposing to study the impacts of the RSO policy changes on housing construction and development in the city.
Wait, we're going to study this after we already changed the rules to see if we've completely hampered any construction of new apartments?
I agree. But studies like this should be conducted before changes to the policy. And those studies should help us inform us on the decision-making, especially for such impactful changes like the proposal before us today. The city has nearly 650,000 RSO units. And according to a recent LAHD report, 49% of them are between the 2 and 10 unit buildings. These units are what...
By the way, these are the first that get demolished with Scott Wiener's SB 79.
They're the backbone of what's naturally occurring affordable housing, often owned by small landlords. If we impose unrealistic caps, while cost of insurance, utilities, maintenance...
Oh, yeah, there's also the utility costs, which, by the way, are going up for everybody. And it doesn't matter how much power you're using, you're paying for all these AI data farms.
Maintenance continue to rise year over year. They will sell or convert. Many already have. Between 2018 and 2023, 51% of the 2 to 10 unit properties were sold to organizational entities.
Okay, that is quite telling. Let me replay that again from John Lee, who doesn't speak up a lot in LA City Council, but that's a big one.
51% of the 2 to 10 unit properties were sold to organizational entities.
Between 2018 and 2023, which included all 3 years of LA's eviction moratorium, half of the small rental buildings, 10 units or less, sold to private equity. And what we need to do now is double down on those policies and make it even harder to be a landlord.
That's over 34,000 units. And repeat investors, meaning they bought more than one, account for 28% of those acquisitions.
Now, if you want to ask me what's the fix to all of this, including the cost of housing, the cost of everything, I don't think private equity should be able to buy single-family homes or multifamily homes. But I don't think that policy is going anywhere because who do you think donates to the politicians?
What that means is that when small owners are pushed out, large corporations, buyers flip properties, acquisition costs rise, and tenants in neighborhoods pay that price. Relocation payments will just become sort of a part of the routine cost of doing business here in the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, you can make so much money by demolishing one of these old buildings and turning it into a tower with $4,000 a month rent that you'll pay people that are living in those buildings for months and months and months to go move somewhere else. But they can't move anywhere else.
This council has fought hard to increase production, and we shouldn't undermine our own progress. If the goal is protecting tenants, then shrinking the rental market, pushing out small landlords, and stalling construction is the wrong move.
A lot of landlords showed up in that meeting today.
I'm urging all of you to vote no until we see the impacts of what these changes have on building in our city of Los Angeles. So let's protect tenants without shrinking the future of housing in Los Angeles. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you so much.
That is what John Lee had to say. When we come back, I'm going to play you Hugo Soto Martinez with the other side of this. And of course, Hugo getting booed by all the mom and pop landlords that are in council chambers. This discussion is happening right now at LA City Hall. They haven't voted on it yet. I'm sure they will within the hour, and we'll find out. But if you want to comment on this, you want to comment on the LA City Council planning to change the rent stabilization ordinance to, quote unquote, cap the rent at 3% regardless of utility costs, regardless of insurance costs, give us a call. Do you think this is the right move? Do you think this will encourage more people to want to become landlords in LA? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you're a landlord anywhere in California and you want to talk about this, you want to comment on what's going on in LA, give us a call. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. We're taking your phone calls, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The LA City Council right now is debating changing the rent stabilization ordinance, the so-called cap the rent at 3% idea. Regardless of inflation, regardless of insurance costs, building costs, and utility costs. If you're a landlord and you want to talk about how difficult it is to do business in California, or if you're a tenant, you want to talk about how impossible it is to pay rent here, tell me what you think about what's being debated right now at LA City Hall, anywhere up and down the state of California. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Stay on hold because we're taking your calls next, and then I promise we will get to this sound of Hugo Soto Martinez getting booed by a bunch of landlords.
Yeah, clap that up.
It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. The phone lines are lit up, so let's get right to it. Your reaction to what's going on at the LA City Council today, as the LA City Council is debating a new rent stabilization ordinance, rent control, where it would cap the rent increases for any landlord who's in that program in LA to 3%, regardless of inflation, regardless of utility costs, regardless of insurance costs. If you want to talk about how difficult it is to be a landlord in Southern California or Northern California, give us a call, 800-222-5222. And if you want to tell us how difficult it is to be a tenant, you can call us as well. Let's start with Elliot in San Francisco. Elliot, hello.
Hey, good afternoon. Good morning. Yeah, my wife's family owns this property in San Francisco, and the city is just making it impossible for the mom and pop landlords to keep in business because they want us to sell the buildings so the equity guys will tear them down and put up 6 and 12-story buildings, and that'll increase the tax base.
Yeah, there's definitely an incentive for the cities to want to drive the mom and pops out because, yeah, when private equity decides to build a massive tower, well, that's more property taxes for them.
Yeah, they've taken one street in San Francisco, and under one of the previous mayors, he tried to push through that they would rezone everything from 3-story to 6-story, and he'd like to see all the existing apartment houses torn down and replaced with 6-story apartments. And they keep enforcing all these retroactive clauses that we can't pass on to the tenants except over maybe 27 years. So all of a sudden now you got a $150,000 retrofit that's not required by code except in San Francisco, and you can't reclaim the money. So you sell your business to an equity firm and go on vacation somewhere for the rest of your life.
And we're seeing a lot of mom and pops do that. Why deal with this where they can sell out and cash in? Thanks so much for the call, Elliot. Appreciate it. Let's go to David in Oakland. David, hello.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I just want to say I never hear people talk about the correlation between illegal immigration and the uptick in the prices of apartments and housing. So, to me, California will never get rid of the homeless problem because you always got a major influx of illegals coming into California. So, the average guy got to compete with them, and then they come and they undercut your wages. So, good luck with that. And, by the way, in Oakland, low income is considered $75,000. So, it's not doing anything for the homeless problem.
Yeah, I think you make a really strong point. And you think about the people that are in just the state of California that we know about, that's a lot of housing units because most of those people are not on the streets. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. I think right now in LA, it's like 80,000 is low income. And in Santa Clara County and San Jose, it's like $100,000 is low income. It's a wild time to be alive. Let's go to Rita in Silicon Valley. Rita, hello.
Hi, Randy. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I own 3 properties up here in Silicon Valley area or near area, and one of them is a single-family home with an ADU, that's an accessory dwelling unit in the back, and 2 of them are condominiums. On the condominium front, the issue with, this 3% cap, the problem is these unregulated HOAs that control maintenance and property management on these condominiums and or apartments. I've owned these one for over 17 years and one for 10 years. Every single year, without fail, my HOA goes up 10%. I mean, without fail. And it's crazy because it's really hard to understand how they're spending their money. They make it very difficult they try to be transparent, but it is very difficult, and it's very difficult to keep up with a 10% rate hike on that front. As far as the single family home, property taxes alone, sure. The theory is your property tax when you buy a home is 1.1% up here, but they don't talk about all the other portions of the tax, that all the other fees that get added on to that 1.1%. Property taxes are through the roof, just from sewer, maintenance, and PG alone for infrastructure update. All these things haven't been touched in years. I mean, my property taxes are killing me. Anyways, bottom line, for those reasons, I'm not making any money on being a landlord anymore, so I'm tapping out. I'm selling everything, and hopefully I'll be done by the end of next year. And quite honestly, I'm moving out of California. It's just not worth it. I'm not making any money. It's just a bunch of heartache. That's my story.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's a lot of hardship, and I don't blame you whatsoever. If you do move out of the state, make sure you keep the KSFO app so you can listen to us wherever you are, because the radio everywhere else sucks. Thanks so much for the call, Rita. Appreciate it. If you're a landlord in California, are you making money? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Jeb in Huntington Beach. Jeb, hello.
Hey, How's it going, Randy? How are you?
Doing great.
Well, really quick, you don't make money in California on your property because of the fact you got all the taxes and every issue under the sun. And for them to try and put a cap on it at 3%, why don't they put a cap on their situations at hand? You know, why should we be getting hit every time the wind blows? And then if you can't afford the property, then don't live there. This is the land of opportunity. That's how people came up with properties and buying them. So if you can't afford it, you move somewhere, you know? But you shouldn't be able to tell me that, hey, you have to limit your opportunity for income. That's like telling the guy when you want to buy a car, hey, you got to lower this price. I can't afford it. If they want to do it, that's up to them. But you shouldn't make people have to do things.
Well, and you look at what happened over the last 5 years, where anytime there's a quote-unquote emergency in L.A. County, what do? They pass an eviction moratorium. So if you have a tenant that's not paying, you just have to eat that cost now. And that one, the COVID one, lasted for 3 years.
Yeah, it was crazy. I ate a lot of cost on that COVID one. That was a joke, you know?
And what happened?
Yeah,
so many mom and pop said, we're getting out of the business. We're selling to private equity because we are going underwater with this, and the city does not care.
Exactly. You know, it's amazing out there. You know, it's kind of like the government going on strike and then you saying, hey, you know what? Let's just not pay them. They're going to come right back right away to get paid. You know, it's a joke.
There you go. Thanks so much for the call, Jeb. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. People like Hugo Soto Martinez, the DSA council member in the city of Los Angeles,
Clap that up.
claim that, well, landlords are getting rich, and that's why they keep jacking up the rent. How are you doing if you own rental property in California? 800-222-5222. Let's go to David in L.A. David, hello.
Yeah, hi, Randy. I'm not actually a landlord, but I've gotten dragged into this mess. The city of L.A. has a department that hunts down suspected landlords, forces them to join this department, and you have to pay $30 or $40 a year, and they use that money to protect renters' rights. I inherited my parents' property. I gutted it. It's still under renovation, being remodeled, and it can't be lived in. It doesn't have certificate of occupancy, but the city keeps hounding me, and I have to do all this paperwork to get an exemption, telling them nobody lives there. It's not a rental property, and they still keep going after me. That's it.
That's the city of L.A. for you. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go to Todd in Saratoga. Todd, hello. Todd, call us back. Let's go to John in San Francisco. John, hello.
Hello, how are you, Randy? Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay. Hey, I own a small apartment building in San Francisco. I've owned it for 29 years. My family, me, my wife, my daughters live in it too. We have 4 other units. And let me just tell you, you were previously talking about how LA is contemplating maybe small property owners to sell to private equity firms. In San Francisco, what they did for these buildings is they mandate that I offer the first right of refusal to a nonprofit. All the nonprofits in San Francisco for these things are run by turned-out politicians. And the politicians, the first thing that they're allowed to do when they take it over as a nonprofit is they get to raise the rents. They don't have to adhere to the rent control laws.
I am so glad you point that out, the grift that's going on with nonprofits buying buildings, and this is something that goes on in L.A. and San Francisco as well. And then they can also then turn it around, and they can make a whole bunch of money on it.
They make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year managing the buildings. I haven't turned a profit in my building. You know, maybe I've had reduced, housing costs because my family lives in it, for the first few years, but for the last few years, because our rent ordinance is limited to less than the rate of inflation. It's 0.7 or 0.6% of the rate of inflation. Every year, my rents compound negatively. So, and my tenants will never leave. They'll never, ever leave. They've been there 40 years. Why would they leave?
Gosh, we're making it really difficult to do business here up and down the state. Thanks so much for the call, John. Appreciate it. Let's go to Tom in Yorba Linda. Tom, hello.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Make a long story short, we've had multiple unit buildings in LA County and several detached homes, and we have basically sold everything off ending this year. We just got tired of all the garbage, not only from LA County, but the state as well, and we just saw it coming, and it's just made the decision. It's just not worth keeping and being a landlord in California at all.
This is the story that we keep hearing left and right, and that means that everything's going to get less affordable because the private equity firms are going to own everything.
Right. I mean, and it cost, we had to pay people to move. It was insane. They have their nose in all your business, and it's just too many headaches and not enough profit. So
I totally understand.
The state's going to get what they deserve, if they don't get a handle on this. It's just, anything as we know by the government, they always screw it up.
Well, that's what we're seeing, especially in local governments like the city and county of LA. Thanks so much for the call, Tom. Appreciate it. Let's go to Jim in Culver City. Jim, hello.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, good. A great show. I appreciate it. I love the satire and everything, but I'm a property owner in Culver City, 38 units. It's crazy. My property was an old grant to the original Spanish family, and it sits on an acre split right in half. Half of it's Culver City, half is LA. So my front tenants all benefit from Culver City rent control, and my back tenants, they have to put up with LA rent control, both of which don't keep up with the cost of keeping the units up. And like the last caller said, nobody ever moves. They love it there. It's a happy medium, and if it wasn't for refinancing and investing in other things, it wouldn't be able to keep the buildings. I started in Santa Monica in Venice, and then when that got so bad with rent control, I moved down to Culver City with my profits, and all of a sudden Culver City turned from a great city to, the same thing. They've got these people that are working there that have never owned a building, they've never worked a day in their life, and they were voted in by 10% of the population, and they're making these rules on how much you can charge and what the tenants should get. What about the landlords that are providing housing? They just don't take it into consideration. And my last comment is the homeless around here has gotten really worse. And my solution to the homeless is what happened to me in the Army. I got drafted in 66, 18 years old, went in for 2 years, came back, went to school, finished, made my life, right? Why don't we round all these guys up and put them in the Army, in a camp, and it's just like the Army. They get so many meals, and we got medical there and everything, and get them off the street. If they got to go to drug rehab, have that facility ready. Do an Army base for the homeless, and it would be 1/10 of 1% of what they spend every year here in Culver City, Los Angeles, Santa Monica, and all the other cities in California. It's just the biggest scam in the world, and I've got one more question. If you could just tell all your politicians and all your guys that want to do the right thing, send out texts and emails for a real response that doesn't require a donation.
That's a great idea.
Don't respond to, because you get to the end and it's like $5 or $10 and we'll take your text. Screw it. If you want my opinion, you want to know if you got my vote, you don't know where you're going to go in the election. Hey, I've written letters to all these new guys running for California, and I don't get a response back. I get nothing. And it's cool that I got on your station, because some of them got to hear this idea. And can you imagine?
I love it. Let's put that out there.
with all
Stop
these
asking for
emails.
money. Thanks so much for the call, Jim. We're late for a break. Appreciate it. If you're on hold, stay there. We're going to be taking calls for the next hour on this. If you own rental property in California and you want to comment on the city of LA considering capping the rent at 3% regardless of inflation, utilities, or insurance, because the LA City Council DSA wing says that mom and pop landlords are profiting way too much off their rental property. What say you? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. More of your calls coming up next. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. We're talking to owners of rental property in California as we react to what's going on at the LA City Council right now, where they're debating changing the rent stabilization ordinance to cap rent increases at 3% regardless of inflation, utilities, or insurance. And they say we got to do this because mom and pop landlords are making way too much money. Let's go to Maya in Diamond Bar. Maya, hello.
Hi, yes, thank you. You know, another part that's really frustrating is that LA County's mismanagement of housing and that they're expecting the landlords to fill the gap and pick up the cost. The special assessments that are tagged on to the property tax fees, they make those decisions on their own. There's no wide vote about how much those special assessments could be. And then the annual fees that LA County requires, like your fire extinguisher annual inspection, that's like $200-300. And if somebody pulls that tag off the fire extinguisher, they have to come back out again, and you're charged again because you don't have the tag on there. And then the backflow testing, all of these for apartment buildings that keep pushing the cap rate lower. So we can't even sell those buildings because now they're earning like 3% cap rate, and the interest rates are so high. Who's going to buy that? So extremely frustrating, and it feels like they're wanting the landlords to pay for everything. Forget about just keeping rent control and rents low, but they want us to be the fix for their created problems.
You're right.
Thank you for having this
These
conversation.
local governments have passed on so many costs to people like you, and they don't realize what that plays in a role and how expensive it is to live here. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. I say they don't realize. I'm sure they do realize. Let's go to Joe in Healdsburg. Joe, hello.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
I'm up here in Sonoma County, and we've got a couple of businesses. One of them has a rental component to it, and we've essentially been driven out of business. I mean, it's not just the real estate taxes up here, but if we were able to pay just the national average for things like insurance and power, we might be okay. We also have to pay the tax to the trial lawyers here in California. We've been sued a couple of times for wrongful dismissal, suits that have been ridiculous on their face. We've won, but winning costs a couple $100,000 in legal fees. So it's gotten out of control. We're probably packing up and leaving. I'm third generation. I've got a son and grandsons here, so 5 generations. And kind of philosophically, I read something from a guy I follow on Substack today. It's kind of like we've seen when the number of tax receivers outnumbers the number of taxpayers, you've kind of crossed a Rubicon that you can't climb back out of. So I think that people are realizing that the end is nigh, and where they may have been civic-minded at some point, I mean, I'm sure there are people on the LA City Council, not all of them are Kamala Harris level IQs, some of them are probably triple-digit or more, and they understand that the things they're doing are destructive to the state and to society.
Oh, they have to. Thank you so much for the call, Joe. We are out of time. Thanks so much. If you're on hold, stay there. We're going to continue with your phone calls. If you own rental property in California, is your city, county, or the state driving you out of business? Give us a call, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. More calls coming up on The John Phillips Show.